everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Market Mindset, where we take a look at the psychology behind the moves today so we can better understand tomorrow. And today, we're taking a look at gold. Now, gold was a little bit of a choppy, sloppy kind of market, but if you were patient and waited for the correct time to jump on in, you had a pretty good day overall. Now, you'll notice there aren't any long signals. We did talk about a couple different long opportunities today in the room, but for the most part, we have a strong bear trend. Over the last couple days, we've gapped down, rallied higher, gapped down, went sideways, gapped down, rallied higher, big gap down, rallied higher, and all of those kicked off with one very specific thing. We had a gap down, first of all, which has been happening for the past several days, and after that gap down, we had immediate strength from the open or very close to the open. When there wasn't strength on the open, the market went sideways and really didn't do a whole lot. We can see here that we had a weakness starting the day off. They had a big dip lower, and then they ended up rallying back to the highs. We started off here. They tried rallying higher, very weak rally, and then a big dip lower. We started here, relatively slow, and then rallied up and ended kind of flat on the day. Here, we had another move and a big dip down and continuation. You'll notice one thing that's very common here. We're gapping down, and all of the big dips that are happening are to the downside, right? So we're looking to catch that bearishness. The market is obviously showing us that even though they are ending the day bullish, it's not before they get a big drop in prices. So what we're looking for is for the market to potentially end as a bullish day, closing near its highs or at least towards its highs. But in between there, we're looking for a possible dip in prices. So we have a gap down, right? Very common. We've seen that several times. Weak start to the day. They dropped a little lower, pushed a little higher, and then we started falling back lower. And this is where we finally got that dip down. Now, the reason that there are only sell is because, well, we're trying to go with that longer term trend, and all the big bursty moves are lower. So trying to stick with that bearishness, we see an opportunity to drive the market down on pretty much any rally for that drop. And then from there, we can look to maybe turn into buyers and push the market back up again. It's getting kind of late in the day now, but we have that little spike higher, possible exhaustion, meaning that when they slam higher this aggressively, this is the biggest bar that we've had all day. Followed up with another big bar, again, very large comparative to the rest of the day. And then they completely fall apart, right? They finally make it to the highs and they get a twin reversal. They close above it and then immediately close right back down below it. And generally speaking, when something like that happens, they're setting up for a possible range, at least for a small correction. We had the same thing right here. If we look backward a little bit, they closed above it, closed back down, and that was a pretty good correction down. We're not necessarily looking for a huge move all the way down to the lows, although all of the bursted moves are lower. We have a better chance at one, but we're at least looking for a good 10, 15, 20 ticks correction to the downside because that's what we can expect on that kind of move. So we have a selling opportunity at the highs to drive the market back down. It worked out beautifully for a quick little correction lower. If sellers waited and they didn't want to jump in on that initial entry point, we had the buyers try again. And knowing the movement here, we have buyers that have the biggest bull candle of the day, right? We're always thinking both sides of the market. Even if you want to be a seller, are the buyers in a place that it would make sense to become a seller, right? We have the biggest bull bar of the day. Likely buyers will buy above it. And it makes sense, right? We've seen several days now lately where we've gapped down and closed the day higher. So we expect the same thing, right? We have a gap down, we're probably going to close the day higher. So we have a strong bull bar, and buyers will probably buy above it. They're feeling really good on this candle right here, right? One candle pullback, not that big of a deal, right? Just a bear candle, probably just a pullback. They didn't close underneath my entry point. You know, we're all fine and dandy. We should still be going higher. And then they get the bull candle here. Now they're feeling really good because now things look pretty solid, right? We have a nice bull candle. We just had a one candle pullback. Buyers probably scaling in to attempt to drive the move. And then this happens. Right? This completely shuts down the buyer's sentiment. The buyers are feeling really good, a little bit shaken, feeling good again, and now completely lost confidence. And the reason that they lost confidence is because now we're closing back underneath their entry point. If the market can't turn back higher from here, they're now sitting in a negative position after feeling really good. They're not going to hang around if this continues, and that's likely going to cause a stop run lower for another selling opportunity. Now, the selling opportunity there worked pretty well, but it was a mostly range-bound morning where we really didn't get a whole lot going on, and it wasn't until the afternoon session where we finally started breaking below that wedge. Once we cracked that wedge low, that allowed a ton of sellers to pile in, and this candle right here is no joke. That is a massive bear sentiment candle, and it's shutting down all of the buyers. Not only is it shutting down all the buyers, but now any buyer who had their stop below the low, they're challenged now, right? We're challenging the stops on the low for an even better sentiment for continuation to the downside. So everything looking really, really good for a bear move here, and the sellers jump on in, and it slams it down into the prior month support. So just a phenomenal day of trading on gold if you were patient, right? Patience was definitely the key today on gold, and as long as you waited around and you were patient on your entries, you did just fine. So hopefully you learned something, hopefully you found it useful, maybe a little bit interesting and entertaining, and we'll see you next time.